But I remember we were the first Mexican family probably within blocks. We were the first sign of the Mexican migration into Highland Park. And we were like, for them, the worst version of that sign because we rolled in with 9 kids. And they freaked.
Highland Park was great at that time. The bowling alley was still there. You guys could, even though I wasn't a smoker, you could smoke in a restaurant, and like across the street. And the theater was one theater. You could go to the theater and see these films during the day. And we used to go to Filmex together with the free films. You know, in the late 70s, we saw the premiere of Eraserhead. You know, it's like stuff like that. You know.
At the time that we were working in Highland Park, there weren't a lot of galleries. I don't remember that there were a lot of galleries, but there was the traditional galleries that were in existence, like the Goes and some of the other galleries. That was one thing, but we weren't really interested in that at that time. I think we were more interested in doing our own private works of art and then our collective works and projects together.
It was interesting because white flight occurred and Ivers and People's department store moved away, and then came the gentrification, eateries. The old Chevy dealership took off, left Highland Park, there for years on end. And then you saw, the flavor we have, ¿verdad? No matter what it is, no matter how folky it may seem.
Well, I didn't really pick up too much reaction other than complete flight. It was just white flight. I mean, I was practically handed this house for the asking.
Getting harassed in department stores, up and down Fig. See's Candy was there. They wouldn't let mothers with their kids in. The kids had to be outside. Just, dumb shit, but harassment of sorts.
It's interesting how a lot of us came to Highland Park and they were not like, oh, we all knew each other and we all came here to be together. It wasn't like that. It had to do with economics, and it had to do with how much places cost to rent or the price of property. And it happened that my husband and I bought a house in Eagle Rock. And so we moved to Eagle Rock in the mid-70s, and that really coincided with the same, migration of a lot of these artists, even though I don't think I was aware of that at the time. And so after a little bit of time, I began to, have associations with Mechicano Art Center, the Centro de Arte Publico, and Highland Park became just this neighborhood and this community where a lot of people were here doing a lot of creative things at that time.
Highland Park was a really beautiful community. The stores were very nice, kept. We had Frank's cameras here, so we could get all our. I was taking a lot of photography in those days, and so that made me happy that I didn't have to travel all over. I remember growing up in the '60s, and because Highland Park, especially Eagle Rock, was mostly white communities, Anglo communities, So if you really wanted to get to know other Latinos or Chicanos, you had to go to East LA.
When I first moved back, I didn't, cruise LA for a while, and then when I finally came to Highland Park, I thought, oh my gosh, all the white folks are gone. When I lived here, it was a white community. And, it was very pleasant, very quiet. And now suddenly, Figueroa was bustling with the same kind of energy that, I was accustomed to seeing only in East Los Angeles. We've also brought with us some of the issues we still struggle with, like, gangs and, access to, to social resources and education. Those things haven't changed, unfortunately.
As a Chicano Studies professor, and I guess before that as a student of Chicano history, The Plan de Aztlán and, of course, the Chicano movement, and then later some of the activism, the real high point of activism, or the apex, would have been the Chicano moratorium here in Los Angeles, are all things that, that of course, come up as we go back and look at how did some of these public and social and political events unfold. And I think the Plan de Aztlán was a manifesto. It was an ideological manifesto that came out of the Denver Youth Conference in 1968 or 1969. And it was a multiple point program, kind of echoing a lot of the plans that had emerged, I think, in Mexico out of a lot of their revolution and plans for future activism to achieve the goals of the revolution, and in this case to achieve the goals of at that time the Mexican American civil rights movement. And so there were a number of points that were on there, and they dealt with everything from political activism to economics to education and of course the arts. And so that was the Plan de Aztlán.
Got into high school in the walkouts, the blowouts of '68. I was there. Sal Castro was my guidance instructor, and Frank Cruz was one of those guys there also, one of those instructors. And it was one of those things, the spirits have always led the way.
I mean, even at East LA College, I was part of a theater group at East LA College. We were first called the Mexican American Center for Creative Arts, you know, so it's like MACA or something. And we participated in the moratorium marches. We went through the three that the sheriff blew up, the large one, and then there were two other ones.
But Franklin at the time was I'd say about 70% white. Most of the kids were coming off Mount Washington, which was an upscale neighborhood. It was at that time that the war in Vietnam was really raging, so that puts it, my high school time puts it at about 68 to 71. And the marches were, there was the Chicano moratorium, which was basically kind of a catalyst and a galvanizer for Chicanos waking up and saying, let's get our shit together, right down to the high school level.
The moratorium was all part of the, it was against the Vietnam War and the disproportionate amount of death and maiming from the Chicano and the African American community, civil rights, and that whole time of political action, and also becoming an artist. For me, it really fused to be politically aware and politically active in claiming Chicanismo, whatever that was. In a way, it became some sort of a cultural way as an artist. People were doing it in literature, trying to express themselves. Professors, even in the legal profession, like Zeta Acosta, the lawyer.
We organized ourselves as the first group called UMAS, United Mexican American Students. And within 2 months, we did what was happening nationally. We changed it to Mecha. And I was the first president. Irene Montez was the second president. Irene was also from Highland Park, and her family owns El Arcoiris restaurant. I started organizing walkouts as a protest against, poor education. Chicanos. I was also a Chicano that was being railroaded through shop classes because that was the standard.
The Chicano movement at a time, for me, I understood that it really split, where there were cultural nationalists, that with Chicanos were Americans, and there was no room for the pie that America was going to give the Chicanos when you add Pan-Americanism, where everybody would be inclusive, like the new like immigrants that were crossing the border, legal, illegal, it didn't really matter. We're all Latinos. And so there was a group that really wanted to encompass Pan-Americanism And that's really split with what I would consider the cultural nationalists.
If we were going to be part of this social revolution, this political social revolution, the Chicano civil rights movement, we had to give up some of our ego and learn to work together. And as a consequence, I think it was rather remarkable at the time when I think about it, that all of us seemed to be willing to put those kind of, I don't know, Western European elitist ideas, you know, to one side for a certain part of our life. It was kind of like joining the army.
As a woman artist and as a Chicana artist, in order to get out there and stand out from the crowd, you have to have passion, you have to believe in yourself, and you got to keep doing it no matter what the odds are, because you are in control of your destination in that point. And you do, excuse me, you have to have a big mouth. You can't be weak. You can't be soft. If someone says your art sucks and you suck and your kind suck, you can't walk away like a little puppy crying. You got to stand there and fight. And I'm surprised I have all my teeth, because I've fought. And I got on TV shows. I called up and said I was other people when I had my artwork in town. I said, oh, you got to see this Latina artist. She has great work. And who are you? Oh, my name's Julie Jones. And I would ask people, can I use their names? And so then I got an article at the Sacramento paper. I got on TV. I was over here I had an art show over here at Occidental College. I got on TV. And I had a painting with two little Latina girls, and it says roles that Chicanas get, and it was a whore and a maid. You know, they were hoping for movie stars. When everybody band together, that something could be done, and what my hat goes off to for the Chicano art movement was we were all young kids. We were like in our 20s. And a lot of these kids, they can foresee things. You know, they figure, hey, it's not going to happen for us, so we'll stick together. Because sometimes a lot of artists, there's jealousies, there's egos, and they don't want to work together. They want to be the star, right? These people didn't care. The Chicano artists got together. They started a movement. They kept at it. There was tongue lashes. I remember they thought we were communists, and they were tapping the phone line here. I mean, it was crazy. And all we were doing was producing art.